Utah inventor Paul Pantone has developed what he calls the GEET fuel processor, a plasma generator similar to a super carburetor that actually appears to run on 80% water and is entirely non-polluting.
This device replaces the carburetor and exhaust and combines them as one unit, whereas this end of it acts as a miniature refinery, allowing the engine to run on everything from battery acid and water mixed to crude oil right out of the ground. This is Angola crude, a 39.5 gravity. The exhaust coming down goes around and comes out here at the far end. The center chamber draws some of the heat from the exhaust, plus this tube takes some of the exhaust gases, takes them up into the chamber and bubbles them down to the bottom. The bubbles, as it comes through the fuel, are brought up to the top of the chamber, picked up through a tube, and fed up the center of the exhaust pipe. While they're being fed up the exhaust pipe, they are in a vacuum, and there's a heat exchange which occurs. This process has been argued a few times to be either a plasma field, an electro field. We do know that it does have a slight radiation, which is not alpha, beta, or gamma, and we do have x-rays to show that whatever is coming from the unit does get affected different from stainless steel than the regular steel. Yep. When the temperature of the exhaust is the same as the air temperature going in from the air portion up here, normally 3% more oxygen coming out of the tailpipe than there is in the air we're breathing. And no carbon at all.
Carbon vanishes.
I wouldn't say vanishes, I would say transmuted into some other substance, a lighter element, because we have an abundance of lighter elements here that are not explained from down here. But during the heat process, there are molecular changes. After running this engine from 1983 until now, and many times we had it running 8.5 hours a day, we have never had to change the spark plug, change the oil, or clean it. We have taken the head off 3 times to inspect the inside of it, and it's been spotless.
Many of the things that we have been able to accomplish, according to science, was not possible. But once you start bringing the scientists in and showing them, that's when they back up and go, okay, our books are wrong. But continue. What's next? Come on, teach us. That's what I'm all about. I love teaching.
I'm Adam Abraham. Paul Pantone was an inventor. In fact, it was him that first presented the idea of what he called inventor syndrome to me, as I spent some time probing and giving him a way to share his very, very fascinating point of view. He passed recently, and only time will tell how his perception after his passing will evolve, because many of the things that he spoke of as being possible Many of the problems of our world today that actually have solutions haven't been met with great acceptance. I said with great, heck, with much at all. And yet those problems and the principles, those solutions and the principles behind them are available for anyone who truly wants to look at them and actually implement them. The fact that they are not widely known says a lot more about our society than they do about Paul Pantone's credibility or lack thereof. The clips that you're going to see, this and a few others, come from a visit that I took to see Paul in Albuquerque when a film crew came from Mexico to produce a documentary on him. I believe it's from or by the History Channel. To my knowledge, Paul told me one day, called me and said he actually had seen this video. I have not. But nonetheless, they came, they saw, and Paul conquered. At any rate, enjoy the remembrance.
Hadn't heard of you before I told him, and when he started to study all your work, he was like, "This is amazing! Like what this guy is doing is it's for real,
Yeah.
and it works, and it's good for the world." I don't know why I didn't know this, and I was like, well, this is what we are trying to do with the documentary, to show to a wider scope of people the work of these investigators. But for example, I talked to other investigators, and some of them were familiar with your work, and they all agreed about the kindness and the benefits of your work. But for example, for Stanley Mayer, there were some skeptics, and there were some guys that even called him a fraud. What do you think about him?
Tesla was a genius, in my opinion. There's so many things that he discovered back then, but the problem was he hit the same problem, only harder than I did. There's no book to explain it, because they ban anything that's knowledgeable from being available to the public. Every time something's been discovered, the government grabs it and hoards it, and they don't let the public know. They have control. There's ways we could tunnel right now through mountains without having to dig out the dirt and move the dirt out of the way. Just make a hole.
The system that we have, like the politics system that we have, is actually hurting us.
Yes,
It's
but only because they think that's the only way they can keep their control. To get the control and keep that control while they're helping mankind, why not come in and offer inventors like me and other inventors that have things that work a reasonable amount of money? I mean, what's reasonable? How much does one man really need in a lifetime? If I got a penny for every piece of equipment that was modified, I'd never be able to spend it all. Just the motor scooters alone, the little putt-putts, 600 million a year are built in Asia. 600 million pennies? That's a lot of pennies. But then you multiply that times how many ships there are, how many cars there are, how many furnaces, boilers. If I had a penny, I wouldn't need any more than that. But do I hear a government coming forward saying, hey, we'd like to use your technology, and we're going to have our friends that have all this money putting it out there for the people? No. What they're doing is they're saying, we want your technology, we're going to put it on a shelf, we're not going to tell anybody about it. Well, that creates a shortage of employment. Mine means, how many people do you need to rebuild every piece of equipment on the planet? A lot. Because a lot of people don't want that old car. They want a new one with the new technology. So you're going to end up opening new car companies up. GM, Ford, and Chrysler would be selling 5 times more cars if they came out next year with a mileage 3 times normal? Oh, geez. They couldn't make the cars fast enough. How many people would that put to work? And put Detroit back on the map. We don't think. They're more interested in doing what they do.
Protecting the status quo.
Yeah, the status quo. That's a good way of wording it. So, instead of having the status quo, let's change. It's like the cotton gin when it first came out. There's a faster way to pick the cotton.
And I think even your technology is even friendlier than other devices because it's just to modify the existing. You can modify
Even though
the
the existing system is garbage,
You can make it.
we can make it a lot better.
A lot better.
Yeah.
Without changing the whole infrastructure of the companies or
Yeah.
whatever. That's what it bothers me more, even more.
I mean, how many years would it take to replace every car in Mexico City? Many.
Many. Yeah.
When E.H.H.O. had their financial company, our director came out to meet with me years ago, he said it would take, when he ran the numbers of how many cars there were in America, he said it would take 37,500 mechanics working 24 hours a day, which you can't do, 7 years to replace the cars that are on the road today by modifying the GEET, if you could do one every 4 hours. Nobody can work 24 hours a day and do one every 4 hours, so it'd probably take 100,000 men to do it in 7 years or more. That's 100,000 new jobs just installing. Now you have to have manufactured, and package, and box companies, and shipping companies. How many people would that put to work? Maybe 500,000, 1 million people.
Corriendo.
Toma 3.
Corriendo.
Entrevista para
Marca. Y pega set. Set.
It's what is GEET and how does it work in simple words?
Well, the simplest way to explain it would be to point at it here. This is the bubbler. This valve over here allows fresh air to go into the bubbler, goes down a tube all the way down to the bottom. The vapor is pulled off the top of the jar. It comes over through the exhaust pipe in the opposite direction of the exhaust. The exhaust comes out here, comes down here, out the muffler. The new fuel, which is called GEET gas, is then taken over, mixed with fresh air, and that goes into the intake of the engine. By the time it gets over there, the molecules are so small and dry. I'm sorry, we have to do that one again. GEET is basically a miniature refinery. You can put any type of fuel that you want into an internal combustion engine. Back in the 30s, Hitler taught the public how to run a car or truck using wood, coal, anything that could be vaporized or smoldered could be a fuel. We take that a step further. We can use crude oil right out of the ground. We can have as much as 80% salt water. More money to make plasma gas than it did the value of the gas coming out of it. Mine is a self-generated plasma fuel. So as you're using nature, causing vortexes, tornadoes, all kinds of interesting phenomena, mine is actually generating the energy itself, just like the planet Earth or your body. As energy is drawn into your body uses it. We found a way of drawing it out of the atmosphere, out of the solar system, so the energy coming into the unit creates a healthy, balanced field of energy being delivered from the unit.
Could you tell us a little bit about how did you feel when you realized that this nice invention
Worked?
yeah, when you find out that that you were successful trying to produce energy out of water?
I was thrilled. I was jumping up and down, running around my house, just screaming, I did it, I did it, I did it. It took about 3 or 4 days before the reality set in. That no matter who I called and told, I did it. Greenpeace, Sierra Club, Texaco Gas. I mean, I called every corporation I could saying, I've done it. I have 0 emission. And they all laughed. So what? You'll never get it to the market. Why? Politics. They don't want anything that runs that good. Detune it. Give people a 20, 30% increase. That'll be all right. Don't get too good. If all I get is a 20, 30% increase and all I can do is reduce pollution by 40 or 50%, I want to have zero pollution. They're not going to let that happen. Not unless they can own and control oil and the product. Because as long as they can keep raising the price of oil up as people start using GEET more and more, they're going to still make their money. If they're not happy with that, they would want to own the company that's building the new products. And I don't have a problem with that. If all I got was a penny for every piece of equipment on the planet that can be modified, I'd never be able to spend it all. Look at all the other inventions I could be working on. I've got 650 inventions to play with. I'd much rather be out there building magnetic motors for the next generation and running different things. GEET is just the beginning. When it comes to the medical applications, many medical applications here. Just the thought of being able to go get an x-ray that's safe. 20 years ago, if you'd asked me that, I'd said, I don't know if that's possible. But after I saw the first x-rays we did, I was dancing. It was like, yeah, what have we discovered here? But then the flip side of that was, if there is a radiation that we're having here, is it harmful?
Right.
So there was a little fear I had for a little while that if there was something harmful, I wouldn't be able to market it.
Sure.
But we had it checked out by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in Utah, and they said it's totally safe. It's not alpha, beta, or gamma. They have no idea what it is, but plasma puts out a different frequency that will expose X-ray film. So it's a question of, would people rather have that big expensive MRI machine or something that could be built for, you know, a few $100?
To say the least.
I've really not followed that one far enough to know whether he was or not. I would have to say I would suspect something like that would be foul play, because I knew Eugene Malove, and he was a really nice guy, and when he told me that he was going to go in front of Congress and show them that cold fusion not only worked, but could be done very inexpensively to power cars and trucks, equipment, there were a lot of people very upset. When he told me what he was going to do, I thought he'd be dead in a short time. So it did not surprise me when I heard a few weeks later he was dead. Same thing with Stan Myers. When I was talking with him on the phone about a month before he died or so, he said he was going to be driving coast to coast on water. And I said, I know how to do that too, but I'm not going to. That's what's keeping me alive. He said, but Jesus is keeping me alive. Jesus will protect me. And I said, I don't think so. You may be with Jesus, but if that's your best card you got, don't put it on the table. Well, he didn't last much longer.
What did you think about the water fuel cell?
Which one?
Well, the one that Myers.
Stan Myers? It's extremely expensive compared to what I do. Mine doesn't cost more than $25-30 to make. His was a lot more expensive. So it was good for what he was showing, but it cost too much. I like to do things as inexpensively as possible. It's just like on the units we teach with here, and show on TV and show all over the world. These are all made with pipe fittings from your local hardware store and plumbing store. It doesn't require any genius to bend metal and shape it and drill through angles. Any kid can build this, 10, 12 years old. And a lot of them have. They used it as school projects. We had 2 kids down in Palm Springs area. They built it as a science project. One was 10, the other was 12 years old. And they had gotten in touch with me and said they wanted to do something for mankind. And I said, well, this is a good start to learn. But I think after you build the first unit, you may not want to try to help mankind unless you understand what the battle is you're fighting. They offered to clean up Salton Sea. I said, I'd be happy to tell you how to do it. You want to take the salt out of it or add more to it or clean it up? I'd be happy to show you how. But I don't think the government wants it done, or they would have already got in there and done it. Well, these boys built their engine, and when they got it into the science fair, the cameras came by from ABC News. I said, well, start the engine up. And they said, well, we can't. The teacher won't let us bring gasoline in to put 30% gas or 10% gas into the jar. can't have gasoline in the building, so we're not allowed to start it in here. So ABC said, well, just pull the rope, pretend you're starting it. Well, the boys pulled the rope, and the only thing in the fuel tank was Windex and pickle juice. And the engine started up. Both boys stopped, looked at each other, and go, it's running! And it ran really good. They made the news. They got first prize. They were asked not to talk about it again. The government does not want knowledge like this out. And once in a while something will slip out on the news and you never hear about it again. That's one of them. We call it a North field.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Now here's one that came out of a semi, a big truck. Because north is up, south is down. When you turn the rod over, north is up, south is down.
And where's that? Is that connected to the...
This is the part inside the center of the exhaust pipe where the vapor goes. This is the accelerator rod, or the reactor rod.
See, if that was truly magnetic, that would have that would have flipped.
I have one here that is a magnet. These won't pick up anything. This is a magnet. It's got a south and a north. But north is up now. I'm sorry. Listen, north is up, south is down. Now, south is up, north is down. That's magnet. And it picks stuff up. These won't pick up anything.
But they have this...
They have an aura, just like you do, around your body.
They have it.
When it's healthy, it will flip upside down, and north will always be up, south will always be down. This is what makes the GEET work. Come on, you turkey. So, if you have a healthy aura on the rod, you got a good working engine. If it doesn't have a healthy aura, you got the wrong rod in there.
Wow. How did you get those rods like to be as they are? Like,
Because it's all naturally occurring. That's it. That's why we got one more thing to film. Probably over there while you're running the engine, I'll sit right next to
that's
it.
perfect. Yeah.
And I'll show it out there, so you got just enough backlight to see it flipping. Show that on the camera, that'll get their attention.
That's cool.
And we'll take the...
Corriendo aquí porque doble zinc.
Toma uno.
Doble zinc.
Sí, aceptas.
Okay. Now we have a rod here that has a north and a south. Very distinct. And right now it shows that north is up. We turn the rod up the other way. North isn't up anymore, it's down at the bottom. South is at the top. That is a magnet. A GEET rod is totally unique because it'll have a north at the top and a south at the bottom, but when you turn the rod over, north will be at the top and south will be at the bottom. You can turn the rod over hundreds and hundreds of times. You always have north at the top and south at the bottom. And it has no magnetic qualities at all. Will not pick up anything. That's how you know you have a good aura on the rod. Now that's out of a small engine. This rod came out of a semi, a big rig truck. It has a north and a south, and when you turn it over, it has a north and a south, but north is always up. That's when you know you're getting a perfect GEET reaction.
How close does it need to be in order to affect it? Like,
If you put that magnetic rod up against the GEET rod, it'll cancel the field out, which is what he just did a few minutes ago by putting them together on the bench. So you don't want to put a magnet near the GEET because magnets stop the GEET from working naturally. These are all self-generated magnetic fields. Everything that happens right in here, which you can read with a compass, will happen because of the magnetic field that is self-generated while it's making the plasma.
Ya, corre. Marca.
Corre. Marca. Toma 5.
Okay, so primero se lo voy a levantar para que vean que no tiene nada debajo. Okay, so it's just the engine and it's mounted to a block of wood. That's all it is. Okay. So this demonstration will be just to show the very low emissions, almost zero pollution that comes out of this engine. So I'm going to start it up.
Those pieces here go up too high like they are,
Yeah.
and they pop off, it'll break the jar instantly.
Oh, okay.
The metal hitting it.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to make sure those are down all the way.
Okay.
So, I got away with it a few times. I made the news. But I had to do it in an entertaining way. And I found out the only way I could be guaranteed getting it on a TV program is we run it on Fun Fuel. We become the entertainment of the evening. We run it on pickle juice, Mountain Dew, coffee. We throw a few bags of sugar in it. That they'll put on the news, but not at the top of the hour, at the bottom of the hour, to sucker people in to watch the rest of that news program. We're the entertainment. They look at it from a different point of view than you and I do. They're gonna look and say, and they always make jokes about it. Well, the next inventor is running an engine on pickle juice and Mountain Dew. You know how much Mountain Dew costs? They can't think, wait a minute, if it'll run on all that, what else will it run on? Only the people who have massive amounts of brain cells can figure out it'll run on anything. The rest of the world sits there going, Mountain Dew's too expensive.
You got to edit out the beer if I grab one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll reserve or preserve your virtue here.
Yeah.
I don't mind telling you, first of all, I was amazed by your presentation. I have heard of GEET before.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what it is. Okay. And so my audience, I can't, they may know, they may not, but they're going to have to listen with me and learn with me. So I did see in there that it talks about fuel processor. So let's just, for a newbie, let's go into what that is.
It is a method of treating the fuel before it's delivered to an engine, a furnace, or a boiler, so that the fuel becomes 2 to 3 times more efficient than it was, and has normally about 90 to 95% less pollution.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Right off, that has a lot of significance, amazing significance to it.
Well, I've made 181 discoveries that I've already published for copyright purposes, and there's about another 50 that we haven't taken the time yet to draw all the pictures out on. And I'm bringing in all the scientists I can from around the world, PhDs in all fields, that are going to be coming in to work with me so we can validate all of these to put in new science books.
Okay.
The books we have today are obsolete.
Yes, except most of the teachers don't, and the publishers don't know that, apparently.
Today I had a teacher, a physicist, who came over, and he said he would like to take one of the rods home to share with other physicists at his university, because what he saw when he held that rod and held a compass to it, and he saw that the North Pole kept flipping every time he turned the rod over, and that's physically impossible based on all known science that's printed. He said, can I take one of these home? What does it cost? And I said, the cost of education in this case is free. Take the rod and go with my blessing.
Wow.
So we need to have more people that have the courage to take this into public classrooms. Well, we have been threatened coast to coast and in Europe. Do not bring this on our campus. We don't want this technology. We cannot accept it. We will not talk about it.
So let's talk about what they don't want to talk about. What are the implications here? I mean, what's involved with acceptance of this technology, and not just acceptance, but deployment and embracing it?
Well, we have governments, not just here, but one government can control all of the others by being a bully on the block, a big brother, that we're going to tell other countries what they can and can't do, or we'll go to war with you. Well, the reason for that being, and if we have to lie to the public to make a war up, we'll do that. We don't care if we take down a few buildings. So what?
We've done
so
that.
A few hundred people have done it. So what? They died. Big deal. But war creates an income for their money machine, which is their nest eggs for later. They make money off of war, they make money off of drugs, and they make money off of oil. From the turn of the century in the 1800s, gasoline was a waste product. I can take crude oil right out of the ground mixed with 80% salt water and get 90 times more energy out of that as a fuel than you can from gasoline. All of the energy from the gasoline went up the smokestack at the refinery.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm taking that step out of it. We can refine it right now on site where you can use it as a fuel. Crude oil can be used. The plastic bottle you have right here. If we took this right now and we heated it up, vaporized it, what do you have in my hand? You have gasoline, diesel, and kerosene. All of those are good fuel in my engine. So all I have to do is crush this up, put it in a heat chamber like a
Marty! You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Wait a minute, what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel. Go ahead, quick! Get in the car!
No. Look, Doc, I just got here, okay? Jennifer's here. We're gonna take the new truck for a spin.
Well, bring her along. This concerns her, too.
Wait a minute.
pressure cooker, heat it up, take the vapor, and I can run my engine.
Wow.
Now, if this is gas, diesel, and kerosene already, why are we dumping it in the garbage? Because we don't want to process it and take away profit from the government selling more oil.
Wow, you start thinking about, at least I'm picturing these dead zones in the ocean full of plastic.
Yeah, it's all money.
Wow.
Energy.
Yeah. It shows that energy is always energy. It just changes form.
Correct.
And it can transmute from one back to the other. Wow.
In 1994, when I went to Brigham Young University, I was snuck into the university nuclear lab. Dr. Jones and a few other people were there. We had to cover the engine up. We had to sneak in when classes were going on, bring it into the elevator, go downstairs, and we ran the engine for 3 days. And they couldn't figure out why there was helium coming out of the reactor. When we were pouring crude oil in, there was no helium in it, but we had helium, but we didn't have carbon. We didn't have sulfur. All the heavy elements were lightened. The transmutation to lighter elements that was running the engine was to them unknown. But they also said, we can't talk about this publicly, and if you ever do, we'll sue you. Well, I had to trap them into telling the truth. I went to the Deseret News, and I told the reporter what had happened there, and I showed him what the doctor had given me, and he said, well, let me verify this. So he called down there, and BYU said, oh, no, he was never, we don't even know Paul Pantone. Well, we have some papers in your handwriting. Well, I don't know where those came from. Well, is it true he has an atomic reaction? No, it isn't. What he has happening is Well, they caught themselves up in a lie.
Yes.
We've done this over and over. We have exposed all of these liars from the government, universities, laboratories where they didn't want to talk about what the results were. But when they got trapped into it, then they said, we really don't know what it is, and we can't make a comment.
Wow, geez, not even as a human being, because they could say, if it's true, this is great. They could say that.
But they can't.
Yes.
They're afraid they're going to lose their pensions, their retirements. They're afraid to do it. So when the attorneys for BYU called me up saying, if you ever mention our name in a news report or a video, we'll sue you for every nickel you've got. Well, I think I have enough right now on YouTube to sue BYU for a lot more than they've got, because we have people that work for BYU that pretended they were my camera crew so they could come out and steal from me. Then they went on blog radio and bragged about how they were trying to steal my technology, which is patented.
That's amazing. So let's break this down for even a layman, because I see the term fuel processor. So on an engine, you got an engine, but then you got a component called this fuel processor. Is that the GEET technology?
That is, the fuel processor is what we call GEET technology.
Okay.
What happens is the exhaust is leaving the engine. As it's leaving the engine, we have a fuel pipe going in through the center of the exhaust in the opposite direction. Now, you have heat leaving, which always spins in a natural spin, clockwise towards the exhaust. We have the new vapor, which is ice cold, coming into that hot exhaust
you got a
drain.
temperature gradient going.
Tremendous temperature differential there.
Yeah.
With both of them are spinning in opposite directions, creating an electromagnetic field, while the heat is trying to be pulled into the coolness of the new vapor being pulled in. We have an expansion. And during the period of 3.5 inches, you can have as much as 100 to 150 increases where the vapor is actually doubled and redoubled and redoubled and redoubled. So you start out with 1 cubic inch of air moving into it, and you have 200 or 300 cubic inches coming out of it.
Yes. This is how tornadoes do their thing.
I'm the only person I know right now on the planet that can actually create a tornado right here on this table that you could film and study and play with and actually stop a tornado.
Yeah.
That is in my training manual, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to get all the scientists to work for me here, is would you like to help document how to make a tornado and how to stop one?
Yes.
Would you like to be able to stop a tornado before it can cause damage? Would you like to be able to do x-rays without radiation? Would you like to do an MRI for under $100? We're doing things that are very revolutionary. All of it using GEET technology.
Okay. Wow.
All of it is basic natural phenomenon.
Which is not taught in school.
Any school or university in the world except mine.
We're coming up to a break in our conversation with Paul Pantone of Global Environmental Energy Technology, or GEET, and GEETinternational.com. When we come back, we will continue. After these few messages.
This right here, all master mechanics will tell you what I'm about to do is impossible. All thermodynamicists will tell you this is impossible. We're not defying any of the laws of physics. Now, this right here is the exhaust in our engine. When I turn this on, I'll put the rag up here and it'll be doing this, because there is exhaust coming out of this engine. So it'll be doing like that. No exhaust here, no exhaust here, no exhaust here. And this is not exhaust. This will be sucking this rag in. This is air intake, because you've got to have air to make the burn. So you've got to have air intake in here. Now this is kind of interesting because this is a ball valve. When I turn this ball valve this way, I shut that off. That means that if I put the rag up here, it'll be doing this. There's no gas there at all. It will not be coming out, no exhaust whatsoever. There will be no exhaust here, no exhaust here, and once again, it'll suck the rag in here. Now, if you take a potato and stick it on a tailpipe of somebody's car, what happens? It won't run. You're done. Banana, potato. Well, I'm doing the same thing when I shut this ball valve off. I'm shutting off the exhaust. Now, I'm going to start it with it open so I can start it. But once I get it started, it'd be the equivalent of sticking a potato in that tailpipe then. Not going to work. Now Now, in this guy right here, and by the way, General Motors knows this, all the engine manufacturers know this, all the people who sell gasoline know this. That's the reason why they put a computer on your car. That's the reason why they say you can't touch the exhaust on the engine, because then they've legislated that to try to keep us from doing this. We don't need to get inside the exhaust. So we can get the heat. That's all we really need is the heat. Now, so I want to just tell you the most important part. When you buy $1 worth of gasoline, ask any mechanic, if you're really lucky, how efficient is your engine? About 18%. Am I right? About 18%. That's how efficient your engine is. 18%. Now, what does that mean? That means when you buy $1 worth of gas, 18 cents worth of it is getting you down the road. Where's the rest of it going? Right out your exhaust pipe and heat losses. So you're losing it out of the engine. Now, when you buy $1 worth of gas, you're getting 18 cents worth of travel. This is the good neighbor plan. You're giving your neighbor more of the gas that you're buying than you're using for yourself. Do they appreciate it? They don't appreciate it. So I say they're not going to appreciate it anyway. Why not shut it off? Now, if I shut it off, that 82 cents isn't coming out anymore. Where's it going? It's going right back into your gas tank, mixing with fresh gas. So the unburned gas and the fresh gas are coming up as molecules coming through this separation process, coming back into the engine as elements, mixing with air, and reburning until what? Until 100% of the gas you are buying is burned. All of it is burned. Now, which would be more gooder, 18 cents or $1? You'd rather burn $1, I'm sure. Now, if you're wondering how that happens because you're technical and you're like, wow, how could you do that? Because you'd be saying, wait a minute, you'd blow the gas tank up. You'd have all that back pressure. Got to have a high side, that's the explosion. Got to have a low side where you can throw the gas or throw the unburned gas too so that you can get rid of it, because you've got to have a high and low side. Well, if you can't send it to the environment, where is the low side? I'll give you one hint. The hint is the intake of all engines is a vacuum. Anybody know that? There you go. That's a pretty good low side. It's less than 0. Okay. Okay, we'll turn it on. It's running. Got it on a lawnmower so it can throw grass. There's the exhaust. See the exhaust? That's exhaust. No exhaust here. No exhaust through here. No exhaust here. And this is intake. It's sucking the rag in. Now we're going to go ahead and shut it off. Close it. Did it shut off? Isn't it still running? And you notice there's no exhaust. No exhaust here, no exhaust here. Try to suck the rag in. Now, by the way, this is impossible. You can't do this. This is impossible. No exhaust. None at all. How much pollution would there be? None. How do I shut it off? I break the vacuum on the low side. Watch what happens when I break the vacuum. When I break the vacuum, it stops. Can't feed into a vacuum if there's no vacuum there. All right? Now, go ahead. How much pollution would there be in that? Wouldn't somebody think that the EPA would want to hear about this? You know who the EPA is? The Environmental Pollution Authority? See, those guys would not even allow us to bring this engine into their office. We went to their office. They wouldn't allow us to have it in. They said, no engines in the building. So we said, okay, you can come outside and see it. And they wouldn't even come outside their building to the parking lot to see this. And I said, well, we'll do it on our side of the glass window, and you can look through the windows and see it. And they wouldn't do that either. They said, no, we're not allowed to endorse any product. Isn't this interesting? But you got to understand something. When we end pollution, don't we end the EPA? And so that's a little bit too much non-pollution for them. What to you is an acceptable level of pollution? For me, it's 0. But we can modify the engines to run with no pollution at all. Tonight I'm going to show you we can end all fossil fuels for any purpose at all. We don't need fossil fuels at all. That is a lie. The fact that you're buying fossil fuels for any purpose at all is a big fat lie. You don't need it.
And embrace ideas whose time have come, the better for us all. So let's continue.
And I own the GEET International Institute, and I teach it. Every week I try to bring a class, or every couple of weeks I bring a class in, and I teach them everything I can. Not just about GEET.
Okay.
I have over 650 other inventions. I teach things that go way beyond your curriculum you'll find anywhere in the world.
So the automobile engine, or the engine, so to speak, that the fuel process that we're talking about, is just only one permutation then of this. You've got a spectrum of things, is that it?
The GEET fuel processor will fit anything in the world or universe that uses fuel. So if it uses fuel today, it can be 2 to 3 times more efficient, minimum.
Wow. Wow.
Now, people who bring things forward, like Stan Myers and other inventors who are dead now, where they know how to run on water, most of them are killed pretty quickly. When I built my first Cadillac to run on water, I was told that I probably wouldn't live more than a week or 2. After hearing that from my own father and my girlfriend and a few others, I decided to pull that off my Cadillac. And I buried it in the bottom of a well and covered it with some concrete. And I didn't talk about it for many years. But when I started coming out with something that was only double the mileage, and that still offended the government officials, they started following me, my cars were blown up, my house was burned down, my brakes were cut. I let it be known publicly that if anything happens to me again, I'm going to release the water plans for free. I'll give it to mankind, and that'll bury every government on this planet. I don't really care. If you want to mess with me trying to help clean up the planet, then I think it's my turn to mess with you. So bring it on.
Yeah.
I'll wear the target, front and back, because I don't need to worry about it. God put me here to clean up a planet, and I'm going to do it. And Bush and all the rest of them aren't going to stop me.
The more we learn about how pervasive the wool has been pulled over our eyes, and plus some bricks have been put on it to keep it down. You know, it's hard to find people who understand. Of course, this is a beautiful thing that more people are waking up, though, because you're right. It is for us to make this change, not for our space brothers to come down, not for second coming, not for someone else to show up. It's for us to make this change.
Well, the horrific things I saw while they detained me for 3.5 years in a maximum security mental ward in Utah, because they said I was delusional. You can't run an engine on pickle juice Mountain Dew. Excuse me, Your Honor. We have 20 witnesses sitting in the courtroom. He said, I'm not going to listen to them. I write the laws for my courtroom, and I don't have to listen to them. So even though physical proof was there, I was still detained. I got to witness people that were locked up being murdered. I got to watch abuse, way beyond anything I've ever seen. And when I called the FBI and the local police, they said, I'm sorry, that hospital is off limits. It's not within our jurisdiction. Whoa, really? Murder isn't within your jurisdiction in the United States?
Of a federal agency, nonetheless?
So I learned a lot while I was in Utah, and I found out that the corruption level in Utah was basically because the system in Utah is owned and operated by the church in Utah. And there is no justice there, so whatever they say today is the church rules.
Jeez, wow.
So I found out that hell is right here on earth. And a good part of it starts in places like Utah. So people complain about, well, the Muslims believe this and these believe. Well, it's not any one religion, my friend. It's all of them.
Absolutely.
We have some problems here that are horrific because we have allowed them. We had a group of philanthropists that wanted to work with me. But when they heard how good it was, they had to call congressmen and senators up to find out, would it be all right for them to work with me?
So you know, we got this dictum, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And now, on the other hand, the truth is better than than you can imagine. Wow.
A philanthropist group in Utah, down by Provo area, had gotten a hold of me, and they said that they wanted to work with me, but these politicians had to be consulted. I said, why? They said, well, we didn't consult them when we shipped a container load or several container loads of food over to Ethiopia and Syria. I said, well, what was the problem? And they said, well, they made us dump the food off in the ocean because they didn't want the people over there to have food. I said, wait a minute, you're telling me you dumped millions of dollars worth of food in the ocean? They said, we had to. I said, wait, they want the people in Africa to die? Absolutely. That's part of the population control. Don't you understand it?
So this guy is basically saying that since we couldn't continue to get payment from them, we went on and dumped it just because they said to do so. Is that basically it?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, why are you looking at putting money in me then? Because obviously, if the government doesn't want me running on water, they don't want me to double the mileage, why are you looking at me? And they said, well, we're trying to see if it's all right to work with you. 2 days later, they called me up and said, Mr. Pantone, we were told by congressmen and senators, we're not allowed to work with you. The White House won't let us.
Jeez, wow. We're talking with Paul Pantone, the developer of GEET technology, which I'm finding is, a treasure trove, you talk about a tool chest of many, many elements that could help us to transform a world in a way we sorely need to do it.
Yeah, right now. We could double the mileage or better on every piece of equipment on the entire planet. But that means our great government would lose half that interest on road tax. And that means more to them than your safety, my safety, for our families.
Well, it's safety, it's health,
and billions of dollars.
You're talking about the pollution.
Yeah.
You're talking about all the efforts that are going into the exploration. You're talking about the burning up of the fuels. I mean, all of these things that are going on, the chemicals that we're using, it goes on and on and on. It's very, very pervasive.
Within the next year, you'll be lucky if you can buy water. It's going to be much more expensive. That's why T. Boone Pickens and all these other people and Bush have bought up all the water rights they can in the world to every place they can.
Nestle's been not only drilling, but cross-drilling and sucking up other people's stuff.
Yeah, right out of Lake Michigan and all over. They're gathering all the water they can so you won't be able to have water. Sorry about that.
Wow. So, since people not only like you and me for this matter are not going to stop talking about it, and there's so many people now seeing that we have to do something. And probably the first thing is to have some courage. You see, that was one of the main things that were lacking when you tell me that someone stopped a ship that was already on its way to Africa and dumped millions of dollars in the ocean because someone called them and said, don't do it.
Well, about 15 years ago, I got a call from a gentleman out of Seattle, and he said he was on a ship. It was a health ship. They were leaving the area, going out into the ocean. They wanted to go out 250 miles so they could treat and cure people on the ship. But they were stopped by the National Coast Guard group saying, if you go out any further, we have to take the numbers off your ship, and we're going to take away your passports because you will not be allowed to come back to this country, and your ship will not be registered as a U.S. ship anymore. Now, do you want to turn around, or do you want to lose your country? I'm sorry. I get calls like this from all over the world, people calling me up, telling me these horrible things our government has done. I have a problem with this. And it was difficult for me to believe such corruption until I can be arrested in the courtroom for being delusional when I've got working prototypes. And when I can look the judge in the eye and say, Your Honor, would you like to pee in the gas tank and I'll prove it works? And he says, no, I don't want to. Because according to my book, it doesn't.
Wow. That's kind of like the people in the Roman Catholic Church with Galileo wouldn't look in the telescope because they might see the moon.
You got it.
Wow. Some things don't change, do they?
History repeats itself. And those in power can destroy themselves. And right now, if the people are smart and they start standing up for their rights and grow a little bit of a spinal fortitude there, I believe the people can get the government to back down. But right now, they have a complete system that is out of control. When police officers are no longer peace officers, but I see so much disrespect for policemen, it's not funny. Where I used to respect an officer when he walked up and said, excuse me, sir, your taillight is out. Now they come up and say, hey, you, MF, get out of the car. Excuse me. I'm the same person I was years ago, only much wiser. Why do you need to talk to me that way? And the response is that I'm some low-life slimeball. What did I do wrong? So I'm experiencing things I used to hear as a kid that other people were complaining about. They called it racial problems. Well, yeah. You know what?
It's your profiling.
Yeah, it's a different profile. Really, I didn't do it. Our system has gotten really cattywampus here. We need to put things back into perspective. When a man comes to the table and says, I want to clean up your air, I want you to have double or triple your mileage, I want to help Earth, and they're saying that's criminal, wait a minute, what planet am I on?
Yeah, you really wonder. I mean, and they do it in a lot of ways because unless the memo came from channels that they recognize as being. Now, I have gone through, I think I mentioned to you that I produced this documentary on MMS. And
oh, I'd like to hit that right now.
Yeah, and so it's like, no clinical trials and this.
2 years ago, I really want to say that, 2 years ago, I was downloading information from the Canadian national government up there was saying that they were using MMS exclusively instead of the N1H1 virus shots because it didn't kill one single Canadian, and ours down here killed 14,000 Americans or more. And they said MMS, the problem with it was curing people. Now, all of a sudden, because FDA raises hell with the government up there, they're saying, oh, it doesn't work anymore. Now, the same thing happened in Japan with a similar type process to Kangen water, where the water, when it's properly treated, and I have met inventors going back 18 years, I've been in the room with them, I've seen their test results, and it's real. Water can be used as a disinfectant, which is much better than any chemical known to man. Yet we're going to support chemical companies like Huntsman.
Paul may have described and found a very useful purpose or application for the electrolysis or the water ionizing systems, not so much from the standpoint of making drinkable water, but actually making water that is not drinkable, but due to its high acid content and made possible by the electrolysis process, it is a very effective solvent, disinfectant, cleaner, and many other purposes that are very good for using what they call very low pH or very highly acidic water.
I'm sorry, why do I want to buy a chemical for $200 a gallon when water will do the job 100 times better?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, we live in a sick society when we can wipe out the truth and create the image that chemicals like Monsanto are good for you. I'm sorry, drink your own Roundup. I don't want it.
Well, it's eat now with the corn. The fact that they can, I used to recall even when I was coming up, there were antitrust laws. And here, they're now getting to a point where soy and corn are, vast majority of which are now proprietary seeds. How can someone own a seed, the rights to a species of plant? That is, not only that, we've gotten this idea for so many generations without questioning the wisdom of using pesticides and herbicides in the first place.
You're just hitting the tip of the iceberg right now, so am I. I think we could probably do an 80-hour special here on these things. I have so much of this information in my computer. I get it from all over the world. I've read the reports from South America, from Africa and other countries. I have actually talked to some of the military people that have said, we are killing off the people in Africa so we can own that property. We are trying to stop Libya from going forward so we can steal the water line so we can own the water. It wasn't about oil this time, it was all about water. Gaddafi was ready to put in the biggest single water system in the world so that Africa could have food. They don't want Africa to have food, they want them to starve to death and die.
Well, the fascinating thing about it, you know, what you do to others, you do to yourself. And it's happening, the things that are there intending to others is happening right here, right now, on this country.
Well, I didn't ask for the knowledge I have. When I was 5 years old, I would wake up from dreams and say, Mom, our house is on fire. And she'd call the neighbor and say, check and see. No, it's not our house, it's the neighbor's house. Oh, okay. Well, we saved the neighbor's life. Well, another time I woke up, Mom, I know how to do coma surgery. I can take somebody in a coma or a quad or a paraplegic and take them out of their condition. It's real easy, and I told her how to do it. And she said, write all your dreams down, son. Please write them down. Well, I had dreams of things long before they happened. I knew when earthquakes were going to happen, days, weeks, months ahead of time. I see accidents before they happen. I've seen things I don't want to see, and I don't like what I'm seeing. But I've also seen the flip side of it. So I'm going to be here for a long time.
Good, good. You're not going to be alone. One thing I want to do, because I anticipate, I'm happy talking to you, and I hope to talk to you again and more. But I want to talk, let's talk about how are you presenting this and helping, how is the public interacting? What are you doing to get this information in a way that people can use? I know you're teaching and one thing, but tell me about that.
I'm setting up distributorships around the world. If somebody comes in and wants to be a distributor, we set them up as a distributor, we teach them how to do the technology so they can go back to their country and build it with their native people at whatever their native rate is so it can be affordable in their country. I don't want it made in China and brought over here or shipped to Africa. No, I want to put the Africans to work. I want to put the Europeans to work. Build it for your own people. But I have so many hundreds of inventions, I can afford to give the invention in your country to you to market. So you don't need to be marketing something that fits Canada. They need to have different needs. I want people to have what they need. But at the same time, I give away for free the knowledge on how to have better crops and do things that you can't find in a science book. That's a gift. God brought it all to me so I could share it back with people. I'm not opening a site up for shareware. I'm only sharing this with my dealers, so my dealers can set up and they can begin sharing in each of their communities to help build the credibility in their community that the people know these people are honest. We're not trying to make a buck from all of these different products. GEET is the only